Okay, so this is what we're going to do. You get this book, you open up to the table of contents, and I'm going to give you, in a matter of moments, 7 traits that distinguish effective fathers. All right, where does this data come from? First of all, I surveyed over 10,000 fathers across the country. And then I said, it's good to get regular, ordinary dads' opinions and responses, but I said, hey, we got to go deep. And I found, with the help of some others, a particularly strong group of healthy fathers. Well, how do you know they were strong? Because in small communities and large communities, we asked 3 people to nominate who were the effective fathers in their realm of influence. And they had to be on all the lists. So what you're going to get right now is some of the experienced fathers. And by the way, if you had 2 and 3 and 5-year-olds, you're disqualified. Why? Because any kid will eat peanut butter and, ice cream and won't talk back. These dads had to have children who were reared through the life cycle. But I didn't stop there. I asked their wives to take the same instrument on them. What? Yeah, you want to see the Holy Spirit in bodily form? Get input from your wife. And that'll make you pray in a way that you haven't prayed, with groans and utterances that only God could understand. And then those that had children over the age of 20, I had the adult children take the same assessment. And by the way, you can go on fathers.com, and that assessment is there. It's in the back of the book. But also on fathers.com, at the top of the page, you can click, and if you want to get real serious, your wife can take it on you as well. Now, here are the 7 traits. The first is commitment. There's no better passage of Scripture that represents this commitment than Deuteronomy 29 through 31. And let me just give you a summary quote of that. This is how Moses now has led the people across the desert, those crying, whining folks, and we're talking multiple thousands. And then he's addressing the group, and he says, remember how the Lord your God carried you all through the desert to this place. He carried you like a father carries a son. What? You know what? Why we are going to succeed, whether we had a damaged heart or a strong heritage, God is vested in our fathering, like a father carries a son. And so that's why you get that inseparable union and connection between a heavenly father and us earthly fathers. Now, what does commitment look like? And I went in and I asked questions, all right? The scales and everything are at the back of the book. You can take and give this to some other dads. This is great for questions. The first thing is they verbalize their commitment. Son, I love you, son. Do you know I didn't hear that till I was in my mid-30s? And this is the deal, and that's been the majority of us. This is how that thing came down. I knew that my dad loved me, but he didn't have words. I mean, who would work like he worked, discipline me because I needed discipline? Who would do that if they didn't love me? But he couldn't say those words. You know why? He never heard them from his father, who never heard him. Who knows where this thing happened? So I showed up, and this is what I did. I go and I say, we're there. We were living 2.5 hours away. I said to my dad, hey, Dad, I just want to tell you something. And then I started, oh, my gosh. I said, hey, I just want you to know I love you, Dad. And he didn't say a thing. And that, okay. So then it was a couple months later. We were in town. I went over, and I thought, now I kind of provoked my dad, but he provoked me, so I'm getting back at him, okay? And he came to Christ 6 weeks before he died as I led him to the Lord with my mom. So I went and provoked him. I said, hey, Dad, I love you. And I shook his hand like that. This is what he said. Your mother and I feel the same way. Come on. Verbalize that. So I had to do it again. And I go down, it was a couple months later. I said, I'm going out. Dad, I want you to know I really, really love you. And he looked at me, and I saw a tear. Now, I'd seen him cry a couple of times in my life. And a tear come down, and he said it for the first time, I love you. Now, this verbalization is something that we need to take note of. It may not be saying, I love you, but the thing that God's prompting me, I've got 2 sons, and, to say regularly, son, I am really proud of you. You are doing an incredible job. I have to consciously say, okay, Lord, I need help, but it will come. These dads that were effective dads, they were committed verbally. They adopted a task orientation, okay? We gave you and are giving you right now a plan to read through God's Word this year. What's your fathering plan? Now, I don't want to add stuff to you, but there are certain tasks that you can do that no one else can do. And what are those tasks? And how have you planned them within your schedule? This adoption of a task orientation, again, distinguished effective fathers. They displayed their commitment, proud to be a dad. I love to go to janitors' workrooms just to check it out. I cannot tell you over the years how many of them had pictures of their kids in their place of work. How about you? Where do you work? Do you have pictures in your office next to your computer of your kids and your grandkids? So they come in, hey, there I am. Displaying that commitment also is a safeguard. Guess what? You put these pictures of your kids in your office. I don't care if you're on the 10th floor of a high-rise in Santa Monica. People come in and they see that. This guy's a committed dad. Women will see that, and it may be a safeguard to other things that could happen. The 4th thing, list your priorities and just share them with your children. Involve yourself in school activities. Oh my goodness. Are we in need of fathers involved in the education? John McAdoo, who's deceased, and his wife, Harriet, were researchers at Michigan State, both African Americans. They determined this after years of research. It's in some of the scientific literature. If the dad said going to college was important, it had more weight than the mother saying it. You see that instrumentality, that task, that push, when a dad said, it's important, son, or it's important, sweetheart, that you get a college education, that had more effect. Now, you could say, and it's reasonable, that moms were expected to say those things and be cheerleaders. But as McAdoo reported, it was the dad difference. You know what was the law in 1640 in the colony of Massachusetts, as before we had USA? The heads of household had to teach the kids how to read. What? The heads of household. And the alphabet they used? It's in the grammar. A, in Adam's fall, we sinned all. Can you imagine the moral, oomph that gives with being involved in the education? So that again distinguished them. Encourage another father, those fathers who were committed. Now this is secret number 1. Secret number 2, know your child. Oh my. What does Genesis 49:28 say? Jacob, you think you have issues? How would you like to have 12 sons? Okay? And all the spouses. Jacob was commended because in Genesis 49:28 and following, he gave a blessing appropriate for each of his sons. And some of those blessings don't sound like blessings. They sound like, I know you're a wild ass. In fact, that's one of the blessings to one of the sons. Okay? Well, it's better to know that your dad knows that because he knows that you're going to do something that you're going to need his help. But he gave them blessings appropriate. What does that mean? Do you understand your child's personality? Are they extroverted, introverted? I just can't wait to get another call from my good friend Darren. He's got Caleb. He's got Hannah. Oh my gosh. And just to see him grow and understand the nuances, it's beautiful. Knowing and understanding not only their personality, but their gifts. Oh, the gifts and talents. Give me your assessment of your child, son or daughter, and a vocational aptitude test. I will go with your assessment, not the test. You know I like tests. I'd give tests all the time. But that is something God-given. Why do you think the Bakers were all bakers? The family heritage. The plumbers were all plumbers. These are last names of family clans. The Smiths were Smiths. This was long ago and not so. And I kept thinking, oh crud, Canfield, what were they, garbage collectors or whatever? Ask questions, don't interrogate. The fathering sermonette is out. Questions that are not, why did you do this? And why isn't your room clean? If you preface it with these two words, and take note of this, and I learned this from Michelle. She said, Ken, I'm helping dads of daughters understand that if you just add two words, it takes the potential sting out of a dad, expecting things. Instead of saying, why didn't you go to school today? Why isn't your room clean? If you just add these two words, I'm wondering, why didn't you go to school today? I'm wondering, why did you hit your brother? It takes what can often be an interrogation and puts it on level ground. Spend time on their turf and listen to the big keys. This is what the Puritans say. Your wife is your eye to see when you're not there. She is your hand that touches when you're not available. If we do not optimize, and Dee, the mother of our 5 children, was phenomenal. She set me up. Why wouldn't I send her roses? Why wouldn't I take her out to eat? That'd be crazy. She was the best gift to my fathering humanly that I could ever have. And lastly, do you know the name of your teachers or your kids' teachers, your grandkids' teachers, where they go to school, what grade they're in, when they're, you can, push this out legacy-wise. Okay, the third secret, and then we'll have some fun. Consistency. The Rock of Gibraltar is a set place, and map makers over history use that as a place to determine mapping. You're the Rock of Gibraltar. Consistency is your predictability. It's keeping your promises. It's that hanging in there and keeping cool during times when difficulty comes. Job 1:8 says this, and Job woke up early every morning and offered a sacrifice for each of his kids in case any of them had sinned. This was Job's regular, consistent practice. Now, consistency in that sense is applied to prayer and sacrifice, but it's interesting in the prologue of Job, who went through, as Darren said, suffering's coming. We don't invite it. We don't want to say, well, you can if you want to. We'll gather around, pray over you and say, Lord, bring suffering on me because I really, no, don't do that. It will come. As the bumper sticker on Art's car says, stuff happens, or something like that. Yeah. So this is where this calmness and coolness is key. The regularity of family time and having other dads to be accountable. What Michelle did in what it was called the ABBA Project, she had 12 of her clients, all females. She wrote a letter to their dads and said, look, hey, I'm going to offer a group in my house. This is on our spare time, just because she's a good therapist and wants to get to the core. These 12 dads met for 1 year, once a month. And she went through, the nature of women, what to look for, and then basically created an accountability group where they held each other accountable. Did you take your daughter out on a date? Did you follow through? Even though, she's with your wife that's 2 states away and they're not talking about you? Did you do that? This accountability and consistency is important. Okay. Now, this is fire hose, I know, so take a deep breath. I got something good. Here are 10 ways to intimidate your daughter's date when he comes to pick her up. Come on, that's what dads do. All right, number 10, lightly sprinkle some dust on your daughter as she leaves and explain to him it makes fingerprinting easier. Yeah. Number 9, casually show him your collection of 5 shrunken heads, then yell up to your daughter, number 6 is here. Number 8, answer the door in a straitjacket. I just got out. I just wanted to meet you. Number 7, introduce him to the family by calling each family member into the living room, using a whistle, and then making them stand at attention and salute. That'll freak the dude out. Number 6, as they leave, talk into your Apple Watch. Subject is wearing khakis and a blue polo shirt, driving a green Honda. Yeah. Number 5, shake his hand and say, bet you want to keep those fingers, so you better keep them in your pockets tonight. How are we going to socialize and help these guys that are just going to go with the flow? This will help. Number 4, come to the door. Well, hey, now some of you don't do that. They'll say, where did this whale come from? And do a lot of flexing. Number 3, tell him, I've always wanted to be on the reality TV show Interrogation of the Enemy. Number 2, grab his phone and install Friend Finder and say, keep your phone on, buddy, because I'll be tracking you tonight. And the number 1 way to intimidate your daughter's date when he comes over, pull him in and say, hey, let's pray. All right, come on. Good, good, good. So, there's a few other secrets, and I want to summarize these succinctly. This is protecting and providing. What does 1 Timothy 5:8 say? Any man that does not provide for his own household is worse than an infidel. Okay. There is a curse that we just have to recognize. Man will work by the sweat of his brow the days of his life. Women will have pain in childbirth. Do you want to switch those out? The need, particularly now, it doesn't mean you have to be the major breadwinner. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is an important part. You talk to anyone that, just that we watched on the Oprah show, what happened? He said, I went to another place finding a job. If you don't have a place of work, a place where it does take a hit on your fathering. And during times of unemployment, those are difficult times. So this is something that's age old, and Paul the Apostle says to Timothy, those words. Protect your children from physical harm. Now, that doesn't mean you conceal and carry. Seriously, it depends on where you live. I live in Arkansas, okay? It depends on a lot of things, but you can teach your children the fire escape routes, the things that they need to know when harm comes, or where Are you? What are you driving in that part of town? Honey, I'm looking at your phone. Oh, I took the wrong turn, Dad. Well, take the right turn and turn around and come back. It's always being willing to express that protective voice and authority. Again, daddy bears have a place in not just the animal kingdom, but in the home, and others know it. Prepare your children for crises. Stuff's going to come down. How do you say no to drugs? How do you say no to sex? How do you say no to any of the other porn when it comes up? How do you protect your household, whether it's Disney Plus? One of my son-in-laws, the internet shuts down, and he has 3 teenagers right now. It shuts down at 10 o'clock with Disney Plus. The whole thing shuts down. So when I'm visiting them, I say, Ted, I'm doing some work down in the basement. And so I have to get a code from him because he wants to monitor that screen time. And let me just say, these kids are thriving because they have other stuff to do. Screen time can steal, both the attention and energy. Remember, you are a model in crises. They look for that reference point. Provide financially for your children. Consider family issues in your career choices. I can't tell you the number of men that I have met, and they have said to me, Ken, I want to help men, or I want to do something in ministry, or I want to get to this place. And as soon as I get this benchmark, make this, million, or I close this deal, it's going to give me a lot of free time. Now, 2 things happen. First, it's like chasing a mirage. Okay, you run and you keep running and the deal falls through. Or you run and you capture it and it just opens you up to more big deals. And more big deals. At the end of the day, I haven't seen anybody, and Billy Graham is, undoubtedly a stellar leader, and he's passed. And when asked what he would do differently in his life, read his autobiography, he would preach less, he would study more, those 2 things, and then he would spend more time with his family. His family suffered for him being gone. Ruth, his wife, was incredible. But you don't have to be gone. Suffering is something that we all are challenged with. And there are no, I don't have any secret sauce because you'll see in there, and I'll talk about that in a moment, the 8th secret, which comes after all of this research, and I don't know what it is, and I'll explain. This is secret 5. Secret 6. Whew. Okay. This is a tough one because life on the planet in America, and particularly California, is dicey. I can go down and see guys at LA County Jail, and they have 5 children with 5 different women. And then they come to know Jesus, and then, what they ask me, Dr. Canfield, which one should I, go fulfill your ideal? And I'm saying, I don't know, brother. I don't know them. I don't know, but you have a responsibility to do this, to respect all your children's mothers. Now, I know that sounds wackadoo, but that's the truth. If you cannot, with civil respect, deal after a divorce with the relationship with the mother of your child, you know who's hurt? Your son or daughter. Your son or daughter. So what Ephesians 5:33 reminds us of, we should love our wife, and in the same it says respect your husband. Love our wife, the wife should respect the husband. Now, what if she doesn't respect me? Hey, I think love covers a multitude of sin, so I would encourage you to love and let the respect come as God allows it to come. But the demonstration of your child's mother's love, I can tell you, and Bill knows, one of my sons, Micah, this kid, I would come home from the day doing a work or even from a trip, and I'd go seek Dee, and I'd say, hey, sweetheart, I'm glad to be here. And I'd go and give her a kiss and just, like you would, I'm home. This 5-year-old kid shows up like a heat-seeking missile. And so here I am trying to kiss my wife, and he's in between both of us. I mean, when we demonstrate in a physical way, what it does is it brings the connections of those children that are byproducts of your relationship, or even if you're in a blended family. Though a blended family is this: your relationship making the second marriage work says this to kids of divorce: marriage can work. You sticking in there the second time, or let's get real, the third time, when you, and part of it comes to your own awakening and recognizing, hey, this affects this and that. You bringing marriage to the forefront brings healing to those in the household, especially the woman you're married to. And this is just so clear looking at the literature on divorce and so forth. Express your love. Listen to your child's mother. Again, what the Puritans say. Give her unexpected gifts. The love languages. I tell you, okay, I've been married to 2 different women, both great godly people. Gary Chapman's a friend of mine, okay? I hate the 5 love languages. Do you know why? Both of my wives, one's with Jesus and the other one's here, they got all 5 languages. It's not just one. It's like expressing appreciation, having time, giving gifts. I'm thinking, no, you're only supposed to have one of these. Come on. But that's the nature of women. They're like sponges that are looking for the expressions of love, quality time, service, and so forth. Tell your kids why you married her. Watch the kids while she goes out with her friends. My son Joel is watching his 3 kids while his wife is recouping with some friends, long-term friends, for a whole week. So I talked to him yesterday. I said, how are you doing? He said, well, his oldest child's a daughter. You train those oldest daughters, hey, they can run the place with you not being there. He said, it's going good and I have help. Oh, yeah, sailor. Now, this is the 6th secret, and James 1:19 says this: let us be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For the anger of man does not achieve the righteous intentions that God desires. Let us be quick to hear, listen. Listen is a discipline. It's called active listening, where you put the screens down, take the stuff out of the attention of your child, and look them eye to eye on their level, whatever that may be. Not like, what are you doing? No, it is looking squarely. This creates an empathetic posture that is approachable. And this good eye contact is so key. Now, I was counseling this 18-year-old daughter, a distant family member, so that's why I don't typically counsel daughters, but I was counseling her, and this is what she said. She said, and this is how smart your children are. Yeah, did you know they're smarter than you? They read you better. That doesn't mean they have more degrees or this or that, but they can read your inflections, your movements, they know. So Gwen said to me, hey, my dad, he doesn't listen to me. I said, Gwen, how do you know? And she said, when he asks me a question And I look in his eyes, I can tell when I'm trying to answer his question, he's formulating his response to me. Now, this is in a sense surreal, but it is real. The intuition, why do you think Jesus loved children? Because they have an intuitive sense. And so Gwen said, my dad, he plays the game, goes through the motions, but the heart of listening is not there. And where I learned listening is in a nursing home. Not with my wife, but when I was doing my doctoral work years ago, I became a conservator to an elderly lady. It's in the book. Her name was Rose. She was 95. She lived to be 103. And I met Rose through church, and they said, hey, she needs some help. And I said, sure. So I saw it like Paul did as a way to take my kids to the nursing home to visit her. And when you take little kids to a nursing home, oh man, you're like the thing. It's like the circus came to town. I remember the administrator had a big jar of M&Ms. He would see my kids come in with me. We'd go visit Rose. He'd bring them into his office. He'd say, stick your hand in there. Take as many as your hand will hold. And I'm thinking, oh, Norm. But here is Rose. And what happens when you're in your 90s or maybe 80s or maybe some of you are already there. You get down to a repertoire of about 10 stories, the Big 10. And you say the same story over and over, okay? And I had heard all of Rose's stories, like the Jewish boy who moved from New York to Manhattan, Kansas to get his degree, and she rented a room to him. I knew every detail. And I would go in and I thought, rerun number 6, 7, 8, whatever it is. Well, this is when I learned active listening. I usually would throw, something there if she hit a spot she couldn't remember, and it would all of a sudden stimulate her memory. But I thought, this time I'm just going to hold her hand. She's in a wheelchair, so I hold her hands. I looked at her, and she started to tell me the same story. And I just smiled, and I shut my mouth. And she was struggling. And I could tell there was something there. And then I didn't say anything. It must have been maybe 20 seconds, that's all. Then she told me things that she'd never told me about the story, and it just because I had my mouth closed, holding her hand and looking in her eyes. Guys, what are our children wanting to tell us? Because if the fathering sermonette trumps what they have in their heart, whether it's a difficult deal, what are we not allowing to come out? And it's not having the answers, because he has the answers. We're just the vessel. Remember what it says? When you're delivered up, well, it says when you're delivered up in a public place. I think that has application in a private place. Wait, listen, he will give you the answers. Like Balaam's donkey. Hee-haw. That's the sort of fathering we need to demonstrate. The last is this, Deuteronomy 6 through 9. It is the classic passage about teaching your children, putting it on the doorpost, putting it on the wall, and letting his word, as we have talked about, permeate your home and your life. Spiritual equipping is the most sensitive because every father feels like somewhat of a failure. I'm not devotionally leading my kids like I should. I'm not praying with my kids like I should. Okay, don't go there, because the mark of a father is not whether he fails. I and you will fail. The mark of a father is what he does after he fails. Get up, try something else. if that didn't work. And then you will discover what I discovered. I was teaching one Sunday afternoon, just teaching, not really teaching. I was just reading the Bible to, at that time, my 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son. And I thought it'd be real cute, to be animated, because we were talking about Paul the Apostle, at that time named Saul. He was going to Damascus, and this light came from heaven, knocked him to the ground with the group that were traveling up there. And then he had to go and be prayed over. So I'm giving this, and I, was real proud of myself because it all fit. And then I said, well, what did we learn from that? So I look at my 3 kids. My daughter Sarah looks at me. Dad, that was so cool how God used a laser to knock that boy down and blind him. Okay, to be corrective, Father, I look back and I said kindly, Sarah, I don't remember seeing a laser there. She looks right back at me and says, Dad, it had to be, because he was the only one blinded and nobody else. So I reframed my statement. So Paul was on his way to Damascus, and somehow, some way, God sent a laser down, blinded him. Nobody else got blinded because they led him to Damascus so he could get healed. Our children, just in our desire to do the right thing, will teach us what the right thing is and what the right thing may not be. And so that's what I call the flexibility of our faith and the application thereof. Pray with our children and pray by name. Man, when you pray for your children by name, that sears into their conscience. There's something powerful when you pray, as I did pray for my son yesterday after talking to him an hour and a half, and he's 40 years old. It doesn't stop until I'm gone, and then, God will do what he wants to do. Lastly, write a letter with a spiritual blessing to your children. And it doesn't have to be, Darren did an incredible job, a proclamation that could be read in many places. It doesn't have to be that in-depth or flowery, or it can be, as they go off into the military, or if they go, do this. But a simple thing. There's something about your cryptic writing, which you may say, it's getting worse, Ken. And yeah, you can text and email, but there's something anointed about seeing that cryptic writing, particularly on a check when you give that. No, I'm joking. Always on a check. So these are the summary of what I call traits that distinguish effective fathers. So Dan, I want you to cue up something, and we'll take a break here. This is what we're going to do over lunch. In the back, page 267. Now, I always love commercials. You're going to get 2 commercials real short here. And I'm thinking, yes, this is what we need more of. The advertisers of a company here used our theme to attract people to their proprietary place. So...
To go. I'm meeting my daughter for breakfast.
I got a shell and 2 starfishes.
It's called meat.
My mom said it looks like my daddy's boss.
It's the day when everyone in Mrs. Meyer's first grade brings something from home and shares it with the rest of the class.
Jack, you want to come on?
On this Tuesday morning, Jack Moore brought something different.
Well, so we're hot property. Yeah, you can take it off. And I hope more positive messages get poured out of this city of angels and the powers that be.